Zoom through this. I did that yesterday. Okay, share screen. Being weird. Here we go. Stop share. Share screen, that one. Okay, so you need to be on Social Studies Canvas. Hi, Megan.
Hello.
All right, so our first thing we're gonna do, I told my printer to print your test prep, and 30 minutes later it has not printed. Isn't that wonderful? Great use of time. I'm going to try this again. Real one side. So Megan, you're going to have to do yours on, you actually have two choices. You can either do it through Cami, because I have it uploaded in Cami, or you can do yours paper-based and take a picture and send that to me, okay? Great if my printer woke up.
Okay.
Hello, printer. Today already. You actually have your test prep in your booklet. Turn to your test prep in your booklet, guys. This thing is being such a pain. If I'm not mistaken, it is on the back of the page that we worked on yesterday. 2 questions. It's going to be worth 6 points. All right, test prep has to do with the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So guys, on the preceding page, technology is really hating me today. This is one of those times that Miss Ward would be yelling. On your preceding page, you already did this, didn't you? We've already gone through line by line. Mariah, you've got to speak up instead of hiding there. You're wasting your time. It did? Oh, no. Now I can actually get up to those shoes. Oh. Get attendance real quick, guys. Please don't let J Campus be down too, so it's a smart board. is clearly, literally just spinning. That I have to say is a first. I've not seen it do that before. And this is the fastest attendance I've ever done too. Took me 10 seconds. Here we go. Woke up. Okay. So other than my people who were absent yesterday and they don't yet have this done, everybody else has this page filled out, don't they? This right here. Okay. Megan, I don't know if you've gone back and done this yet. I wrote a note to one of your parents, Dojo messaged overnight, and it should have made it to you at 7 a.m. because that's when I set it to send out the Dojo message. I actually sent it to you at midnight, but I set it to go to you at 7 a.m. You already have all the phrases of the preamble interpreted into easier to understand English. Yes? Other than Hunter, Allie, and Kayla. Everybody else already has this interpreted. Okay. That should help you towards the test prep. For the 3 of you that were absent yesterday, sorry, you're out of luck. We still got to do test prep. Okay. Your content is technically right here. You're getting your answers from this. Okay. It's just that what we did yesterday broke it down to make it easier to interpret.
I just did it.
Okay. But your content itself, where you're getting your answers, is technically, I'm showing it on the screen right now. Your content is technically right there in that document. Okay. Everybody see that up on screen? All right. So even if you were absent yesterday, you still have the content you need to do it right in front of you. Make sense? Okay. So number 1, and guys, the reason I read this to you, I've got 8 students in second block who have IEPs or IAPs, your legal documents, that state they get, dog here's my mouse right now. One of my dogs is real sick, so we were up with her last night. They have legal documents that state that they get tests read aloud and they get work read aloud to them. And then I've got several students in my third block who get documents read aloud to them. And the fact that I'm reading documents aloud to classes and not to this class, I notice a difference in performance. Okay. What I'm trying to get you guys to do is hear me saying these words, because these are above 4th grade level. They just are. There are adults that can't say these words. So I want you guys to pay attention to me pronouncing these words so that when you see them again, you know how to pronounce them. All right. That's why I read them aloud to you guys. And so that my kids on Zoom can hear what's being said. Because when I call on my students in the class to read them, people on Zoom can't hear. All right. I know I'm a loudmouth. I've got 9 years experience talking in a teacher voice, which is loud. And I'm sitting right beside the speaker. Okay. All right. So number 1 says, using source 1, which of the following best describes why the founding fathers began the preamble with "we the people"? Guys, you're allowed to flip back to the preceding page, okay? A, the government has all the power over the country. B, a king has all the power. C, the government and country are run by the people. Or D, describes the founding fathers. Color in your answer because I'm going to have to go by and spot check everybody's answers. Good catch, Allie. Color in your answers because I'm going to have to go by and spot check everybody's answers. Okay. Color it in on your paper now. Okay, number 2, based on source one being that picture of the preamble, how does the preamble describe how the federal government, federal being the national government, must preserve America as a republic? Select 2 that apply. There's 2 answers. You got to get them both. Each one's going to be worth, each one of these choices is worth 2 points. So one answer and number 2 will be worth 2 points. The other answer will be worth 2 points. Got it? Okay. So A, regulates trade with foreign countries. Does the preamble describe how the federal government must preserve America as a republic by regulating trade with foreign countries? B, grant freedom to all citizens. C, provide fair and equal treatment of all citizens. D, describe laws that will be enforced by the government. E, protect the well-being of all citizens. Again, I encourage you to go back and look at what we broke down yesterday when we talked about the preamble. Okay. I'm going to give you one other question. So write down number 3 at the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to switch what I'm sharing so everybody can see this and copy it. Okay. So live image. Of course, it stopped sharing. The preamble is the beginning of what important U.S. document? A, Declaration of Independence. B, Treaty of Paris. see Constitution. All right, is anybody still working on this? Raise your hand if you are. Okay. All right, is everybody finished? No? Hunter, you're still working? Okay, are you still working, Aaliyah? Is anybody else still working? All right, you have 1 minute left, Hunter. Reason I added the third question on there, I'm hoping it's a really easy one, but it's to also help you guys. Because when there's only 2 questions, if you miss one, you failed it, right? I'm trying to kind of balance it out. It's better to have another question, especially if it's easy, so that it keeps you from failing if you miss a single question. Hopefully you didn't miss number 3. Preamble. What does pre mean? What does the little prefix pre mean? What? What is pre? Before. So the preamble comes before something. And remember me telling you to turn your page over? You flip your page over, you get a guaranteed easy answer. Yes? Okay. For my 3 people who were not here yesterday, you're gonna have to get these comments going. Okay. Begin with that. That. All right, next to page. Stop share on this and share back on assignments. And guys, I'm getting better with Cami, not that it's faster because I have so many things to put up. Let me show you how much Cami I've put up since Sunday. So here's where we started yesterday. See that? Here's all the Cami documents to go until Friday. There's 20 of them. And how many classes do I teach? 3, which means I'm uploading for 3 classes. So that's 60 documents that I get to put up. Yay. So that was 3 hours of my time last night after babysitting my granddaughter. So we got test prep done. Let's get to Constitution. Every time you see this, just hit no thanks, because when I've tried running OCR, it doesn't do anything for it. So just ignore that. Okay. No, I don't want to do that. Just want to move this up out the way. Zoom out. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, the rest of our lesson, and we have an hour to do this, is just on these 3 pages. And you see the sources are not very long, are they? So I'll read it. We'll discuss it by way of discussing it. If you pay attention, the questions that are there beneath it, they'll end up being answered. So pay attention to the discussion, participate in the discussion, and you should hear the answers to the questions. So when it's time to write down the answers, you should be golden. Okay? Everybody cool? Okay. And I'll pick up your booklets at the end of grade, and that way you'll get your test prep grade and you'll get your Constitution grade. Everybody cool? Okay. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. Let me clarify something real quick. Is the Declaration part of the Constitution?
Nope.
It's something different. It came years before the Constitution. The Declaration was a group of Americans stating they want to be free. The Declaration was written before the Revolutionary War. Okay, that was Americans saying they want to be free. It didn't make America free. It was a set of complaints, a set of grievances against the tyrant. Who was the tyrant? Who? King who? King George III. Okay, so that's what the Declaration was. It was a set of complaints against King George III. Okay, it came before the Revolutionary War. Then the Revolutionary War was fought. And then how much longer after the war ended was it before America actually got its freedom? 2 years. And then what was signed that actually made America free? The Treaty of Paris, yes. So the Revolutionary War ended, and then the Treaty of Paris was signed 2 years later, and that's what actually gave America its freedom. And then the Constitution. They had to make the Constitution. Okay, so good job. Declaration of Independence. What is it?
I was going to say that it wasn't really like Independence Day wasn't really 4th of July, was it?
That's when the Declaration of Independence was read. First.
They said that's why I should have said that. And
That's when it was first read to the crowd.
when it was first signed, it was August 2nd. It said
By certain people, but that's when it was first read. Can we get to this part? All right. Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers. The word just, we mean now, to kind of means limiting, but back then, in legal terms, just means fair. Okay, so when they say just powers, they mean fair powers. They're just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. So in other words, when the government becomes too strong, or when the government is doing things it's not supposed to, people have the right and the responsibility to overthrow their government and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So those are the principles. Those are the big ideas behind what they wanted the country to be. After that was a set of grievances. Okay, so those were like the lofty goals. All right, kind of like beginning of summer. Do you ever have ideas, goals that you want to do at the beginning of summer? That's kind of what those are. Those were kind of the big goals that they wanted. That these men got together and said, these are the things we want. These are the things that we think men, Americans, all these, and back then it was literally men, men in America had the right to. And they said these are things that our Creator gives. These aren't things that a king gives. These aren't things that the government even gives us, but the Creator gives. Okay, and they did not say God, they said Creator, because the original founders were not all necessarily Christian, but my understanding is, okay, who goes to RTI? Anybody go to RTI today? RTI? Dodie's not pulling today, so y'all don't go to RTI today. Okay, that's why I was asking about RTI. A lot of the original founding fathers weren't necessarily Christian. They were deists. They believed in a creator. It wasn't necessarily God. Okay. Not sure. Believe it or not, I wasn't around then. And I'm not sure if deism was part of Christianity or if it was different from Christianity. I don't know. I'm a Southern Baptist, so I don't know how that went. Clearly, it's different than deism. Okay. I've heard some people say that deism was different than Christianity. I've heard other people say that it was part of Christianity. I'm not sure how it went. Okay. But I have heard it said creator several times. I've heard other places the word God put in. I'm not sure. Okay. And it said that the creator gave people the right to life. The creator gave people the right to liberty. Liberty is another word for freedom. And it's not that everybody had the right to happiness. They had the right to pursue happiness. Because what if my thing that made me happy made someone else miserable? Well, that's not fair to the other person, is it? But I could do things that could put me on a pathway towards happiness. Does that make sense? I had to work really hard to go to school while teaching, while being a mom, and while rebuilding our house to get where I am now teaching, where I'm not going to school in Ruston. Okay, for 4 years, I was teaching at daytime, teaching during the day, and going to school at Ruston at nighttime, which is like an hour and a half drive, and a mom of 3 little boys, and contracting out, well, not contracting out, but doing the work on rebuilding our house all at the same time. That's when I started having my daily migraines. Can't imagine why, right? Now I've graduated from college, and by the way, I made straight A's the whole time. Never made anything other than high A's, like 100% A's. The whole 4 years. Never made anything but A's, high A's. And out of everybody there, we had this big project at the very end. They threw on us the last semester called EdCPA, and I made the highest grade of anybody that ever heard of in it. And it was something that was new that was thrown on us. It was ridiculously hard and expensive. Insane. Set of video projects and projects. No, it wasn't boring. It was not boring. It was insanely, ridiculously crazy, and it's not something they should throw on anybody in their last semester, and it kept a lot of people from graduating. The highest grade was a 50%, and that was me. It should not be that hard, but the highest grade is 50%. And they were telling people who made 10%, you didn't make high enough grade, you don't pass now, after they've made 4 years of straight A's. Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous, right? Okay, so my point is I worked really hard to pursue happiness, because for me, happiness is teaching children. It wasn't that I was always happy, quite the contrary. But I worked hard to pursue my happiness. You see the difference? And I didn't make other people miserable doing it. I worked hard. My son's having to do the same thing right now. He's about to graduate. Okay? He's having to work hard to pursue his happiness. It doesn't mean you're always happy, but you're pursuing things that will eventually get you to that point. It means a lot of hard work to get there, though. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I got two diplomas at the same time. Because, you know, I can't just do one thing. I got to be extra, is the word we put it. Okay. To keep going, to secure these rights, in other words, to make sure Americans had those rights, governments were made amongst groups of men. In other words, you didn't have a tyrant being the whole government. You had a group of men coming together to form that government. And they got their powers from the people giving them their consent. So the people said, here is our consent. We give you power to govern us. Okay. And if the government becomes too powerful, the people have the right and the responsibility to overthrow the government. That's the part that a lot of adults don't realize. That is written in our Declaration of Independence, which is older than our Constitution, guys. It's not simply a bad president. It's a government that has completely overstepped its Constitution. It's a government that has taken away too many of the basic foundational rights of the people. It's not simply a bad president or a bad Congress. Difference. Okay, so look at your questions 1 and 2. Answer your questions 1 and 2. My printer's being stubborn. I'm just going to make straight 55 copies of this thing like this. Yeah. That the government, if it becomes destructive, if it becomes too powerful beyond, becomes more powerful than what it should be, then it is the right of the people, the citizens of the country, to overthrow that government and start a new government. That's why we have our Second Amendment. In case you don't know what the Second Amendment is, Your answers and your name is on it. I'll take it back up.
So we do all 3 pages.
Yes, I'm going to go through and read all the go through it with the whole class.
Okay.
To catch up. Okay, setting the timer for 5 minutes. Why are you finished? Number 3. You messed up. Everybody wake up. That sound in the morning. You got every spare moment you have. Okay, do you have yours finished yet, Hunter? The quiz. Well, you're not only one not finished. You have your name on it. Okay, on to source 2. Constitution page dose. And again, hit no thanks. And this is a little bit longer one, of course, because you know it can be. Before it will be. All right. Megan, can you read the first paragraph for us?
Yes, ma'am. Realizing that the Articles of Confederation made the federal government too weak to enforce laws, therefore having no power, the Founding Fathers decided to draft a new constitution that would create a strong central government that would govern the country. While debating about what should be in the Constitution, a discussion was held about whether or not the rights of men should be protected by the Constitution. Some suggested that the rights of men should be protected by a Bill of Rights. A Bill of Rights is a document that outlines the rights of men that should be protected and prohibits the government from taking away those rights. Some suggested that having a Bill of Rights limits the rights of men rather than protecting them.
Good. So the Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments. Okay. The men that wrote the Constitution knew that they needed a document that was going to be something they could change over time. You don't need a black one, you're going to need a dark blue. Is that what you're looking for? The colors? That last color is dark blue. Which one are you looking for? That one is. Hard to tell from the font. What is it doing? Okay. So the Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments. The men who wrote the Constitution knew that it was going to have to be something that changed over time. They were smart enough to know that in 1775, they had horse-drawn carriages, and that was something different than what they had in 1700, right? And they knew that in 1900, hopefully the country still existed, but people were going to be traveling using a different means of transportation. Obviously, they didn't know they're going to have cars, but they knew they're going to have something different and that society would change. And they needed a document, a government document that would allow for change. And they made that document changeable. Another word for that is malleable. By putting in amendments. To amend means to change. Okay, so when you change clothes, when you get home from school, who changes out of your uniform? You change clothes. So you amend your clothing. Okay. Every day this week, immediately after school, I have to go to the doctor's office. And I'm always the youngest person at this particular doctor's office. It's always full of elderly gentlemen. You think they're going to give me a weird look today? I bet I make their day. What do you think? Last time I went, there was 100 men in there, elderly men, and me. These are two big old empty spots, I guess, for people to put a lot of hair in there. And I do have a lot of hair, but mine's wrapped around my head up here. I got a lot of room for putting hair in here. I've had this for years, probably 5 years. I have a lot of wigs. So does Miss Ward. Miss Ward has like a whole room full of costumes. Anyway, I'm going to be making a whole bunch of men's week this week because I have costumes for all this week. I'll be seeing them every day this week because I have to go there every day this week for shots. It's better than being hospitalized though. I have a bad infection. I'd rather get a shot every day than get an IV at the end of the hospital. Anyway, so unfortunately, I don't get to go amend my clothing before I go to the doctor's office. But do you think when I do get home, I'll be amending my clothing?
Yes.
This itches. I'll be taking this off. So I'll be amending my hair at the very least and washing my hair as soon as I get home. Okay.
Wow.
I'm sure Mila will be wearing it because she liked them all my stuff yesterday. Oh, y'all haven't seen it yet? Y'all didn't see what I put on Dojo last night?
My mom reads it, but she don't read I saw that one. Was that out for that little girl where you put in her name in the glove or water? Was that out? Oh.
Her mom dressed her to match me because she's wearing a flamingo shirt and the pink bow. And then what she really liked was my feathers. She cried when I took the feathers back out of her hair. Y'all see the feathers? She wanted to go home with the feathers. She did not want feathers to come out. She's like, so today, at the end of the day, when she comes over, she will be amending her hair to put on grandma's wig. Sorry, my head itches. Okay, so amend means to change. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments, okay? This is the poster of the first 10 amendments, which is the Bill of Rights, plus the next 4 amendments that are the most important amendments, okay? The 13th, banning slavery, major one. That will be on leave. Okay. The 14th, giving every U.S. citizen, every U.S. person citizenship. The 15th, saying every U.S. man, regardless of his race, could vote. And the 19th, women finally were able to vote. That was in the 1900s. Took a long time before women got the right to vote. Okay. 4 major amendments. Again, amend means change. 4 major amendments that came after the first 10 that changed up American laws. So you have the Constitution. The Constitution itself is a document that doesn't change. But then you have amendments, which are legal documents that they're additions, they're changes. They allow the law to change because times change, doesn't it? Don't they? Right? When your grandparents were younger, they had phones that actually attached to the wall. I know. I had phones that attached to the wall too. My husband actually had one of those phones that came in a box. He had one of those first cell phones. Looked like a brick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's had his same cell phone number for over 30 years.
What?
He has never changed his cell phone number. Okay. So he has seen phones change. Times change. Things change. The men who made our Constitution, hand down, the men who made our Constitution knew things would change, knew times would change. So they made our law in a way that would allow for the legal system to change, the Constitution to change. But
Yeah, I think that you're seeing it too.
I haven't completed it.
Okay, if you can do that,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I gave you another one just in case.
I actually had the form. I just hadn't completed it. I
Okay,
started
that's
to
fine,
and
that's
hadn't completed it.
Yeah, I just need that ASAP.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. And I'm ready whenever you are.
Yes, sir.
Please form, we can meet.
Thank you. After 116 days, the Constitution of the United States was finally written. So did that take as long as it took for the Treaty of Paris to be completed? How long did it take for the Treaty of Paris? 2 years. But it was 116 days, so that's about a third of a year. The Constitution was originally written with 12 amendments. An amendment is an addition to the US Constitution. It may amend or change something that is in the Constitution, or it may be a new law that affects something not mentioned in the Constitution. The Constitution was sent to the states to approve. The states approved 10 of the 12 amendments, and these first 10 amendments became known as the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution. Okay. So your first question is, what is the Bill of Rights? Second question is, what is an amendment? Okay. We very much answered those two questions. Write down your answers, okay? Maya, did you give me your test yet? Test prep? I need it. Your name on it? Okay. Thank you. guys need 5 more minutes to finish up the second page, okay? There's a third page. Megan, make sure when you take your test prep that you do that third question that I added on there, okay?
I did.
Okay, perfect. All right, who is still working on their page 2? Okay, I see Allie, Aaliyah, Hunter, Joanna. Okay, 2 more minutes, guys. Maya. You don't follow? With the okay, on to page 3. Page 3 has the most, I guess you could call it meat. It has a lot of information on it. Okay. The Bill of Rights consists of 10 amendments that guarantee certain rights and protections to U.S. citizens by limiting the power of the federal government, federal being the government that's located in Washington, D.C., it's the national government. The founding fathers remember what life was like under King George III. They wanted to create a government that could not take away the rights of its citizens. On December 15th, 1791, The first 10 amendments became law, and the Constitution was complete and created the government for the United States of America. Our first amendment. When they talk about the first one, the fact that they made it the first one, do you think that's by accident that they listed it first? No, they put it there because they think it's the most important. And it has, they list 3 here, but there's actually 5 parts to it, but they list 3 here. Freedom of speech. In other words, you can say what you wish to, as long as it's not slanderous. It's not something that's a lie that's going to hurt another person's business. Other countries, you can't do that. I need you guys to stop talking over at table 3. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of the press. Guys, that freedom of the press is a big deal. In other countries, there's not freedom of media. The government, media being news, newspaper, social media also. The government in a lot of, not a lot, but the government in some countries controls the media. And if you don't know what's going on, the government can hide all kinds of corrupt things. Well, in 2014, Syria bombed their own people and killed their own people on purpose while UN inspectors were there. But Syria controls their own press. The government controls their press. So there was nobody to talk about it. There was no media there to report it. There was no newspaper, there was no TV, there was no internet coverage of it. None of it. So officially it didn't happen. If you don't have anybody talking about it, it doesn't happen, does it? Freedom of the press is how other people find out things happen. And that's how you make sure things don't occur that is wrong. It's a big deal, isn't it? That's how corruption is stopped, is by freedom of the press. And a lot of countries have freedom of the press, but not all. Okay, freedom of religion. Why is that written in our very first amendment? Well, what had King George done? He forced religion on people. That was the whole reason that pilgrims came to America. Because they wanted freedom of religion, didn't they? So that's why that is built into our First Amendment, guys. Okay. Freedom of speech. People wanted the freedom to say what they wanted to say without fear of going to jail for it. Because they weren't being allowed to do that under King George. And there are places where people cannot do that today. There's not many countries where that's not allowed, but there are some countries where that's not allowed today. People disappear because government will take them away and put them in jail because there's not freedom of speech in some places. It's not very many places, but there are some places. Freedom of speech is a big deal, guys. Very big deal. Okay, that's our First Amendment. Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Do you think it's an accident that that's our very Second Amendment? Nope. That goes back to the Declaration of Independence, where it is said that if our government becomes too strong and it goes awry from the foundations of what it's supposed to do to protect the citizens are supposed to form a new government. If the citizens can't form their own militia, then they can't start a new government, can they? They also can't protect themselves. They can't go get their food either. But Second Amendment is the way to form a militia to reform a new government. That's your Second Amendment. It's not an accident that that's the second one. They did. Third Amendment prohibits the government from forcing citizens to shelter soldiers in their home. Quartering of soldiers. They put that as the Third Amendment. Do you think the colonists were upset about quartering soldiers? The fact that they put that as their Third Amendment, that means they were really frustrated by that going on, weren't they? Fourth Amendment, right to privacy. Privacy is a big deal. It was a big deal to colonists, the fact that they put that as a Fourth Amendment.
Oh, was it because King George allowed soldiers to search people's houses without warrant?
And that's coming right up too. Fifth Amendment, right to be innocent until proven guilty. That's where you hear people say, I plead the fifth. You don't have to self-incriminate. So you don't have to say things that could potentially make you sound guilty, especially if you're on a stand in court. That's the Fifth Amendment. Sixth Amendment, right to speedy and public trial. So when King George was ruling over the colonies, when a person was accused of a crime, they could be shipped off to another country overseas, and they might not even face a trial till 2 or 3 years later.
And whenever they had, like if they were cooking stuff that they weren't supposed to, they just
Right, but the fact that they were shipped off somewhere else, the trial was held far away in secret. Long time later, that in itself was a whole nother punishment, wasn't it? So they made that the Sixth Amendment. They said no more of that. The Seventh Amendment, right to trial by a jury. Because again, you want people who are like you, who understand your life, to be the ones who judge you. You don't want somebody who doesn't understand anything about you to be the one to be judging you innocent or guilty. Because it's just not fair.
Because if they don't like you, they can blame stuff and find stuff.
Well, it's not just that, it's if someone knows nothing about your lifestyle and nothing about the tools that you would typically carry, they might think you guilty just because the tools you have on you, because they don't understand your lifestyle. You need peers to be the ones that are judging you. That's what that goes towards. All right. Amendment 8 prohibits cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing the picture of tarring and feathering and pouring oil down people's throats?
Yeah.
Cruel and unusual punishment. That's to prohibit that. Amendment 9, citizens have additional rights that are not listed in the Constitution. So that is saying there are other rights that can be given and it can be listed out later. Just because they're not written here doesn't mean they don't exist. Amendment 10, powers not given to the federal government will go to the states. So states have rights too. Okay. Question 5 says, what is a Bill of Rights? Question 6 says, why did the founding fathers create the Bill of Rights? So answer those 2 questions, guys. Okay. I know I took a little while to go through those amendments, but they're very important.
this show called the Voice Show, kind of on the website you have up there. It tells you a lot about who did what and stuff. Like when I saw that, I thought I couldn't remember her name, but I saw the woman jump out. I was thinking Amelia Earhart or something.
No,
So
not her.
that's the is
Forgetting her name right now. Women's suffrage.
Is this
She wasn't much liked for her work on it. There's quite a few ladies, but Sue B. Anthony, maybe
oh yeah, Susan.
she was one. Quite a few women not liked very much for having to be very out there to push the women's suffrage movement.
When I when I saw the show, it makes it very funny, and they used red to move the box when she was trying to put it in. That was and they were saying men a lot in that. Who was also the person who haunts this box. He was also
All right, Megan, do you have any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you can send me the pictures or submit this to Cami later on today and send me the work from the preamble stuff also today, okay?
Okay.
All right, see you later.
Bye.
Bye. Look, 3. It's interminable.